Okay guys, let's look at what we are going to do today. I already have a sample, so we just play it. Alright, that is so nice. If you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly do so, and don't forget to visit my website where you get updates and some vital information on tutorials and IT related stuff. Okay, let's get into the tutorial quickly. If you look at this, I did this in Cinema 4D, then use After Effects to finish it off, and we are going to look at how to create all these bubble blast effect in Cinema 4D. It's something that is really simple, something you can get your hand on how to do. So let's just hover over to Cinema 4D. Okay, here I am in Cinema 4D. I am going to quickly grab a text and type, what should we do? Okay, let's just type Elibel. Okay, just select the text, come over to your text, type in caps Elibel. Okay, and after typing, just come over to this place and choose your font, any of the font you want. By the way, I'm using the navigations from Maya to navigate, and also you can also use the one you are used to, or you can come over here to pan around, move, zoom in and zoom out, and rotate the same. But I like using navigations from Maya, which is holding down the Alt key, then left click you can rotate, right click you can dull in. I use Maya a lot. Okay, now Cinema 4D is great, and we are going to look at what to accomplish with it today. Alright, so select this text and come over to this place where we have the extrude knobs. Make this text a child of the extrude knobs. Alright, so make this text a child of the extrude knobs, and by the way, I want to tell you I've changed my font to Snowstorm. You can as well as do that. I think Snowstorm look more nice kind of, but you can choose any font of your choice. Now the next thing for us to do is to quickly select this extrude text with the extrude knobs, and kindly press C, or you click on this button. Okay, let me undo that. You can click on this to make it editable, so it's now more or less like a polygon. Okay, now the next thing to do is we want to go inside. We have two here. Let's just drag one out and delete the rest. We only need one piece of this. Okay, all right, good. Now the next stuff for us to do here is to come over to any of these our shapes. We can use cube. Okay, we can use platonic. Let's go ahead and use sphere, and I want to make it a radius of 10. Okay, hope 10 is not too small. Anyway, you can do whatever you want. Now what we are going to do is to go to mograph and clone this. So we just make the sphere a child of the cloner. You can see we have 3 by default. Now the next thing for us to do is to quickly select the cloner object and come over to the object parameter and change it to object, to the mode, and change it to object. So we want the cloner to affect the cap 1. So what that is going to do is to pick those individual sphere and make them to go around the text. Okay, and I want to change the distribution, the way this sphere is distributing along this text. I want to change it to from vertex to surface. Okay, now we have other options here which you can play around with, like polycenter and edges and so on and so forth, but I'm just going to stick with the surface. Now the next thing I want to do is to increase the count. That will automatically increase the number of sphere. We can make it 10,000. Okay, don't make it 100,000, if not your system might actually run out of memory. Okay, this is too much and is beginning to drag. So let's go ahead and make it 5,000. We don't want it to be too much, and this will also take time when you are rendering it out. Okay, I think 5,000 is even too much. Maybe we start with 3. We can as well as increase that as we move on. Okay, 3 is not bad, and I think this sphere is a little bit too much. Let's come over here and die this down to 5. Reduce this sphere size to 5. Okay, this is looking like it now. Now the next thing to do is we don't want to see this cap, so we just red these guys out, and that will make them invisible in this area, also make them invisible when we render it out. Okay, so come over to the cloner and maybe we push this a little bit to 4K. All right, now if the spelling is not correct enough, you can play with the seeds a little bit, to change it until you see what you like. Now if we click on this render button, you can see this is looking not bad. So let's just move on. We can come over to everything is fine. We need to add an effector. We just come over to mograph, effector, then we use a random effector. So that's actually what's gonna split this into pieces. Okay, so we have this in pieces. Now we want to do some settings on the random effector. First I want to come over to the parameters. Let's make this 240. That will increase the randomness of this. Then we want to, on the y-axis, we can do with 80. Maybe we do 125. You can play around with these settings just to see what you will get. Okay, and I also want to scale this, maybe uniform scale. Oops, don't keyframe that, so we just scale this to 5. Okay, you can see those bubbles are a little bit too large. We don't want it to be as large as this. Maybe 5 is too much. We can do with 2. So uniform scale of 2 or probably 1. Just okay, that should be okay. Okay, now nothing is happening, and if I move the timeline, you can see nothing is going on, no animation. But just for testing purposes, if I come over to the fall off and change this to linear, and maybe we change the axis to the orientation to -x, as we move this, it's going to form the world. You can see that. So this is how I actually created a splash effect on that. Okay, now one other thing I did was by the time I played the timeline, this is supposed to be dancing or moving automatically, and you can actually do that. Just hover over, let's change this deformer to object. Just come over to your effector, under the random mode, choose turbulence. So turbulence is actually going to allow you to get the test to be self-animated. Now we want to reduce, we want to sync this by turning on sync, and we also want to turn on index. Okay, because if we don't index it or sync it, synchronize it, we are going to get something like this. It's not bad, but this is not what we have in mind for now. So let's just index this and sync this. So by the time we play, you can see pretty much when I play the animation on the timeline is moving pretty fast. And you can also increase your timeline. Just come over here and bump this up to like 200. So no matter how long this is, as you play it, it's gonna keep on moving automatically. Now the speed is too fast, so you might want to dial that down to 20%. Okay, that's more like it. So you can do whatever you want to do. You can reduce the scale, you can dial down the scale if you want. So you can see those are actually moving. So now that is what I did. The next thing is, let me undo that. I need to bring this back. You can see when I play this, the entire thing is actually moving inside. Can you see that? So they're actually moving. Okay, Now one other thing I want to show you is how I textures this, which is something that is very very important, and I believe you get the way to do this the first place. So let's look at how to texture it. Let's see, but before I texture it, I want to do the animation to move across this. Okay, so I will want this to play safely from here to, like, let's use example of 80%. Then with the random effector selected, we click on this keyframe icon to set a keyframe. Then we move up to like 80 to 120. Then we allow this to move across. So let's just zoom out and move this like this. So we stop here and set another keyframe. So we want this to hold probably to like 140. We set another keyframe, then up to like maybe 190. We'll bring it back. Then we set another keyframe for that. Then all the way to 200, it's going to come back again to form the word. Like I said, you can do whatever you want to do. Now I want to just play this and see how it look like. So by the time we play this, you can see self-animated by dancing around, and when the CTI get to where we have the animation, is gonna also perform the manual animation the way I've actually keyframe it. Alright, so you can see that it's pretty much easy. The next thing is for us to look at how to texture this, and how I did that was way too easy. Just come over to create new materials and double click on your material here, and we want color, then we don't want luminance, we want reflectance. By the way, we don't have reflection, we call it reflectance, but we also have a way of going around it. So let's just choose any color. I choose this purple color. You can choose any color of your choice. Now I want to go over to the reflectance, and maybe we add what do we add? Okay, let's go to the default specular. So this is where we have the default specular. So we can reduce the specular fall off and the specular strength. Okay, so and increase that a little bit. All right, so under our layer, add, we go to add reflectance or reflection legacy. So most of us are used to the legacy, so just click on that. We are going to have the option of adding the legacy format. So we need Fresnel, so let's just go to our texture. We have, from this place, let's just scroll down a little bit, go to texture, then we have Fresnel. Alright, so just come over to your make strength. We don't want the strength to be, maybe we can use like 35. If that is not too much, we can. Okay, let's increase the specular strength. Then the overall brightness of this is way too high. We want to bump that down. Okay, maybe like 50%. Then this is, can increase that more. You can play around with this value just to get something that you want. I'm going to click OK, then drag this to my sphere. You can see now I have those color. By the time I render this, you can see is coming out in this color. Okay, now the next thing to do, because this is looking very plain, is for us to, add some light in the scene and make it look better. By the way, if this number of sphere is not enough, you can as well as come over to the cloner and increase this value. So if we make it like 8,000, we are going to have a lot more in the scene. But I'm not gonna do that because this is a tutorial, and I don't want this to be dragging as I'm recording it. But you get the idea of what you can do, so I'm just putting you through the practice of how you can do it. Alright, now that we have this, let's go ahead and apply some light to it. Now what I am going to do is to come over to my render settings. So just click on that icon, you have your render settings. I want to add an effect, so we add an ambient inclusion and close that. So by the time we render, this is really gonna have a little bit of an ambient inclusion. Okay, now you can add your global illumination because you will need that. But if you want to add global illumination, you can come over to the effects and locate your global illumination. But let's do things a little bit different. Okay, let's just come over to this place and create a sphere and increase the size of the sphere the way we want it. Maybe we make it 1000. So now this sphere is way too large, so we can move it towards the center a little bit. Maybe we make it 5000. We are now seeing this inside of this place. Okay, now the next thing for us to do is to select our sphere. Oops, just select the sphere from here, and we turn on S-ray so that we can see through it. So we just come over to basic S-ray, so we are seeing through our sphere now. And the next thing is for us to come over to this place and create a spotlight. So you can see the spotlight. Let's create a clonal object. We just come over to create a clonal object and make this a child of the cloner. Okay, so now if we select the cloner and come over to our object, choose object, we want this to affect the sphere. So you can see we have all those lights affecting the sphere the way we want it, but the way this light is actually affecting this sphere might not really be the way we want it. So let's just come over to this and change this to icosahedron. That will actually affect the way the light move around it. Okay, so by the time we have that, another challenge we are having here is by the time we select this sphere, we can actually see that this light is pointing out. So we can convert this, make it editable, so that will convert this to a live something that we can select the faces. Okay, so just double click to select the faces, right click and reverse normal, so that will reverse the entire light thing. Okay, so when you are done, just go back to your normal mode, and by the time we zoom very close to the object, let's zoom close. So this is where we have our object. Okay, all right, so let's just render this. We don't want to see this sphere. Okay, so we are just hiding this sphere, so we render this. Alright, so you can see some brightness compared to, okay, just for practical reasons, let's turn back this sphere and render this. So we are going to see this object with the sphere and see a lot of reflection of the brightness of the sphere around it, but that is not what we want. We don't want those reflection on the sphere. Okay, since you get the idea, I'm going to just quit the render and turn this to off. We don't want it to be visible in the render view. Now by the time we render this, you are going to notice something that is looking good. The colors are bright, but some things are missing from the way it should look compared to the original video. So what is actually missing is from our light, the light intensity is way too high. Maybe we can do with 50%. that will reduce the intensity. And we also want this to cast shadows, so we can use our shadow maps soft, so that will cast soft shadows. So let's just render this again. Alright, so this is the result we have. Now what is missing? Some reflections and some other things. Let's double check our material to see. Okay, on my reflectance I have the brightness of the layer color. Maybe we want that to be too bright. Just somewhere around there is good. It's good. Let's render this again. Now let's increase the specular strength here and increase the brightness here. So render it again. Okay, that's more like it. Alright, the next thing I did was to add some sky. So just come over to this place and add a sky, and this is our sky here. By the time we render it, you can see this is what we have. So we want to actually create another material. Double click on this material. Let's turn on luminance and reduce the brightness of this luminance. Then I have a HDRMI image that I can plug to this texture. So I will just go to load, pick this image. I'll also leave a link in the description of where you can get this. Okay, so by the time we do that and render again, this should be reflecting. Okay guys, by the time we render this, the whole thing is looking so flat, and we want to see what is wrong and how to resolve this. Now I need to add this material to the sky. Okay, so I need to do that and render it again. Let's see. So now we are beginning to have some reflections. All right, good. Now another thing we need to do is we need to adjust this. So let's go over to, maybe we add a little bit of luminance, but we reduce the intensity of that. Okay, we come over to our reflectance. Then here, the overall brightness of this, we can bump that down to like 38 or so. We increase the Fresnel a little bit. Okay, what else do we need to change here? Everything is okay. Just double check the specular, the width. We want the width to be thin. All right. Okay, I think that is good. By the time we zoom close, somewhere here. So let's render this from this angle to see. You can see we are having the result we want. It's more like it now. Okay, so we don't actually want that background to be part of the scene, which is the one I added here. So I'm gonna use Cinema 4D tags. So I'm going to add a composition, then cast shadows seen by camera, just turn it off. So by the time we render that, we are not going to see that global background, but it's actually going to cast shadows and all the stuff that it needs to do. Alright, now you get the idea of how we actually work on that. So the next thing I did was to set up the render settings, do some camera animation on it, and finally rendered it. It actually took me like 24 hours to render the entire frame. Then I hop over to After Effects to do the compositing and do the finishing over there. I believe you've learned something today. If you have any question, kindly leave it on the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because we make video tutorials on several applications: After Effects, Cinema 4D, Maya, then Photoshop, and so on and so forth. There are so many of them. Subscribe. We always update you on all our tutorials. Okay, I believe you've learned something today. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.